All right, we have our helpers here helping out this morning. As we are cleaning and getting ready, having some, oh gosh, there's already Michael Chatty Chats. Hello, folks. Good morning, Passionate Herbs. Good morning, Robert. Oh, yeah, yes, hello. My Monday candy friend. Abahita, hello. Whoopsie. Hold on. There we go. All right, so nice to have you here. So, as with so many times recently, I'm kind of called to teach our Monday class with what is abundant around me. Now, always abundant around me is lemongrass. And so we just did a big cutting back a little while ago, but it's just grown back now. So I wanted to use lemongrass in this class to kind of synthesize what we've been talking about. Hi, Marcos. Good morning. Kind of synthesizing a lot of what we've done over the past couple of weeks, past couple of months, something like that, about the use of different solvents, right? We've been playing with vinegar and with glycerin, with alcohol, with water. And so it's all very well and good to kind of learn about the chemistry, but it's putting it into practice is where we kind of have the fun. And so you can do this with anything that you have around. Silly Rabbit, hi from Florida. Oh, I do remember the Monday candy moments. Absolutely, I do. I'm so glad to have you over here. And still, I mean, that's been years. It's been so many years. Good morning. It's 2 p.m. Marcos is in Puerto Rico. And good morning, Teresa. Good morning. So yeah, it's been years that you've been coming to the Monday morning classes. So I've got some lemongrass. I have lemongrass because I put it into the ground, and here in Southern California and in many other areas, it grows rapidly. Good morning, Sue. It's 4 a.m. in Australia. Bless your heart, Sue. You're awake at 4 a.m. I love you too. Yeah, it has been years, yeah. So I have lemongrass here abundantly. It's growing abundantly. If you are able to grow it, it grows really, really easily. You can grow it in a pot. You can grow it in the ground. I am constantly having to cut it back since the beginning. Bless your heart. And you can also, this is the lovely thing about lemongrass is it's also really easy to find in a produce department. And if you find it in the produce department, this is one of the reasons why I had you cut it back. This is what I want you to look for. Yeah. So when you buy your lemongrass in the produce department, it can be, what you want to do is you want to look at the bottom of the stalk. And what you want to see is a core, what's called the crown of the plant. The crown of the plant is where the above ground foliage starts to grow. And if the crown is intact, when you look at it, you see a solid base and you don't see concentric circles, which shows that they've cut through the leaves, right? If they've cut through the leaves, then there isn't the crown, and if there's no crown, there's no tissue that is able to grow roots. And what we're looking for is tissue that's able to grow roots. So before you buy your lemongrass, just look at that base. If you're wanting to grow it, this is if you want to grow it. Those lemongrass out there were started from lemongrass from a produce department. So if you have that base, then what you're going to do is you're going to take it and you're going to put it into a jar and you're going to let it soak for a week, and then you'll find some roots forming. After that, you're going to throw it into soil, and then it's going to grow and it's going to spread. This is what it looks like as it spreads. This is a little tiny baby lemongrass growing off the side. So it spreads from through the crown. It spreads by the crown dividing like this. And so you'll have 1, and then you'll have 2, and then you'll have 5, and then you'll have 10, and then you'll have a huge pile like we have there. So you don't have to grow it. You can also just go to your produce section and find some lemongrass there and just make your medicine. Lemongrass, it's such an amazing plant. It's so good. And I think that we don't use it enough as herbalists. It's a fabulous plant, and it's so abundant. It's easy to get. It's inexpensive. It's easy to grow. It's just all good. And it's delicious. That lemongrass is huge. We don't have that variety or that kind growing here. That's right. And Marcus, yeah, this is... One of them is smaller and one of them is the larger, and we have the larger, and I should know which varietal that is, and I don't, and I am so sorry. Hi, Lotus, welcome back. Yay, I'm so glad you finally caught the live. Yay, welcome. And good morning, Michelle. Hi. Okay, so you've got your lemongrass, whether you have bought it from the produce section or you've harvested it yourself. As it grows, the whole crown rises up from the ground, so it gets to be very easy. When harvesting these this morning, I just reached into the base and bent them down and popped them off. So it's just very easy to harvest these. So you've got your lemongrass. Why are we using lemongrass? We're using lemongrass because it smells and tastes beautiful, right? But what is that chemistry? What's the chemistry of that smell and taste? I was gonna make you some tea. Damn it, I've been just scattered all over the place. Nope, this is perfect.
Awesome.
This is perfect. See, you want to make some lemongrass tea for your friends. You're going to want to, if we're using the fresh plant, right? If we're using the fresh plant, we've talked about this before. The fact that a living plant, those cell walls are intact, right? They're intact because the plant has to be in the rain. It has to be watered. It has to be living and hold all of its chemistry within those cells. So those cell walls are intact. We don't want intact cell walls. We want to break those cell walls down. And when we dry plants, if we have dried lemongrass, a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is applicable to dried lemongrass, then in that drying process, the cell walls are desiccated, they're dehydrated, and as they do that, they break, those cell walls crack. And so that when we apply our solvent of choice, whatever we're using for medicine making, to that, as the cells rehydrate and it takes in that liquid, then it's able to get into those cell walls because they broke in that drying process. But this doesn't have a broken cell wall. And so if we're wanting to extract the medicine from this, we need to break the cell wall. This isn't going to be a wise thing to do with you folks right there with me. So I'm going to take you and put you over here and keep you safe because I'm about to bang on stuff. So the best thing to do with lemongrass is to bash it to break up the cell walls. So you can use, depending on the thickness of your lemongrass, you might be able just to take a wooden spoon and just kind of bash along the side. Like this. Those are some broken cell walls. All right, also, smell this. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. So we've broken those cell walls, and now we can go in, and if we are going to make some tea out of this. Now when that water hits that plant tissue, it's going to be able to go in there and extract everything very, very rapidly. So this also applies if you're using it in cooking. Really, anytime you're using fresh lemongrass, just bashing it up is going to be the best route forward. So, there we go. I am just going to, I've got hot water in here, and I'm just going to dump that much in here, and we'll let that steep for a little bit. And now I've stopped being so violent. You all can come closer so that I can read what you're saying as you're talking. You can smell it from there. Yeah, I know. Jean, hello from West Virginia. Hi, good morning, Jean. It's a moment letting out frustrations. Totally, absolutely. It's very nice to bash things. It's really, really, really satisfying to bash things. 100%. So breaking up our cell walls, we're opening up and we're getting those aromatic compounds and the compounds that are in the cells. So you'll be able to taste that pretty soon, but you all know what lemongrass tastes like, right? You've been around lemongrass. What are the flavors and what are the associations that you have with lemongrass? And then we're going to talk about this in just a moment. You folks and you folks. Citrusy. Citrusy, yeah. Yeah, citrusy. What else?
It's uplifting.
Uplifting, absolutely. And this is one of the things that we often see with the citrusy compounds, right? We have a squirrel out there. Hoppity hop. They're such buttheads, but they're so cute. I mean, he's going over to dig up in my garden and eat roots from plants right now. I know that's where he's going. But they're cute. So that uplifting quality, the aromatic compounds, the citrusy aromatic compounds generally tend to be uplifting. So yeah, we always get that kind of quality to it. Settling, grounding, calming. Yeah, settling. Thank you, Abejita. Good morning. Settling, grounding, calming. And I love that kind of duality of calming and also uplifting, right? Yeah. What other things, what other flavors are you thinking of when you think of lemongrass?
It's not sour, but it is.
It's not really sour. It's aromatic, right?
Yeah.
So we can, and this is sort of, it's specifically citrusy, but it's aromatic. And those aromatic, those volatile oils, we remember that volatile oils are kind of dispersing, right? And enlivening, uplifting, right? So they tend to move stagnation in the body, right? And the citrus oils, I like to associate with stagnation in the brain, in the thought process, in the mood, right? So when you have those kind of black clouds of kind of depression and funkiness and sadness, those citrusy qualities, puppy, little tiny like cat-sized puppy, those citrusy qualities really help to kind of break up that dark, black, moody depression. Earthy, foresty, yeah, so lovely for that. Now, one of the things that we're not tasting necessarily, but we want to remember is in here because it's very important, is the fact that this is a grass, and we've talked about this before. The structure of grass is what? Do you remember? So when we're talking about, Silica. Oh, both of you, 10 points. Yes. So when we talk about other plants, come here, baby. You're small enough that you can hang out over here. You got a plant. And the plant has woody parts to it, right? This is a standard plant structure. This woody material is lignin structures that give a woody plant structure, right? So if you have bark, if you have stems, if you have branches, you have the plant has created the chemistry of structure around those compounds, and that's how a tree is made, that's how a bush is made, that's how a flower is made. Most plants have those structural compounds. Grasses and some other ones, but largely the whole grass category of plants like to consolidate silica as their structural agent. What allows them to grow tall, what allows a plant that does not have lignin structures, it doesn't have wood, it doesn't have bark, it doesn't have that inner core, that woody core that allows it to have basically like a skeletal structure on which to put tissue, right? For this plant, it is all about the silica, and silica is in that structure, so it's all throughout the cell, but it is what holds all these aromatic compounds, right? So we have the aromatic compounds. We do have some phenols. So let's see, the chemistry. We have aromatics, and we've already talked about the fact aromatics are uplifting and grounding and lovely. So if we're looking at the emotional actions of lemongrass, largely we're looking at those aromatics, right? We have some phenolic compounds. These are some of the flavonoid-like compounds. These are also giving structural integrity to tissues. They're antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. They're significantly anti-inflammatory. Significantly protective to tissues when they are breaking down. There are some really cool studies on the use of lemongrass for athletes for repair of tissues after exercise, because of the abundance of these phenolic compounds being able to exert an anti-inflammatory effect. And the important thing about this is that what are the energetics of lemongrass? What are the energetics of sour flavors? Cooling, yes. Yeah, so lemongrass is largely a cooling plant. And what we come up against is that a lot of the plants that people generally automatically associate with being anti-inflammatory are often warming, things like turmeric and ginger, which are kind of the go-tos. And so some people in some bodies, the use of turmeric and ginger are not going to be appropriate. But we kind of have, that's what we kind of automatically, by default, go to as the herbs that are anti-inflammatory. So people can't use those herbs, don't have access to those, don't like them. Maybe the use of roots like that isn't appropriate in the type of medicine that they're making. They don't like the flavor for whatever reason. It's nice to have alternatives. And one of my favorite alternatives are generally the sour herbs, but particularly lemongrass. All right, so these high amounts of these phenolic compounds, protective and strengthening to tissues. And then if we add to that the fact that we have minerals, and these minerals are largely in the form of the silica. It's abundant in silica. And so we're getting that silica extraction, we're getting the phenolic extraction, we have those aromatics. And so what we end up with as a medicine is something that's happy making and uplifting, but also grounding and calming and cooling and lovely and delicious. And also very strongly anti-inflammatory and stabilizing to tissues, and very good at giving us raw material for building of stronger tissues, like bones and ligaments and tendons and hair and nails and external skin structures. Right? This is it's just wonderful, and it tastes delicious, and it's really easy to source. So the nice thing about most of this is that most of this chemistry is really stable. So even if you don't have access to fresh lemongrass and you have to use dried lemongrass, that's fine. The silica is going to stay there, right? Silica doesn't degrade. The aromatics might be a little bit milder, but the phenolic compounds will be there. So the things that allow it to be an anti-inflammatory, the things that are, for some people, the primary reason to use it are going to be there, irrespective of whether they are dry or fresh. So But the nice thing about fresh is that it tastes like this. So we've been letting this steep for, I'm sorry, I didn't put out chairs over there. So we're making fresh lemongrass tea right now. You just came in at the perfect time. So we're just going to strain this out. My preference with making teas is to just have it loose like this and just strain it out through a strainer when you are pouring it, rather than having it in some type of a ball or container or something like this. Here in Mexico, we call it zacate limon. I mostly know it for settling the stomach. Very popular here. Great to know it's anti-inflammatory. Yes, also, Abahita, I'm so glad that you brought that up. Yes, also very nice for settling the stomach. Very soothing and calming. Really nice and calming to the nervous system as well. It's so many benefits for it. Okay, let's get you all some. I didn't bring cups over from washing dishes. So you can get lift. No, you can give me cups. Boop, boop, boop. I always forget I have just regular mice here. So what we're gonna do, now that we've made our tea, folks, I'll be back in front of you in just a moment. I'm just serving some lemongrass tea to these folks here. There you go.
Thank you.
Whoa, I am so glad to be back. All right, so the nice thing about the use of fresh lemongrass, while those other compounds are available, there's just the brightness of this as a fresh plant. It's just so good. And it just makes you so happy. So, isn't that wonderful? Yeah. So good. All right. So, that's our plant for the day. So our plant is something that is lovely tasting, it's nourishing, it's anti-inflammatory, stabilizing to tissues. And then if we think about that chemistry, how we would want to extract it. So we can extract into water. We know that it's really well extracted into water. So there's check for one of our solvents. If we make a tincture, we can extract it into alcohol. What would happen? How would it adjust it? So let's look at all of the solvents that we've got. Water is pretty much everything, right? Water is going to extract pretty much all of those constituents. So we can say check with water. How about alcohol? What do you think about alcohol as a solvent for this one?
You're not going to get the minerals.
You're not going to get the minerals. So if the silica was important to you, then alcohol would limit the availability of one of the important constituents. How could you modify that? Smarty pants.
Dual extraction.
Dual extraction, yeah. What would be the other extraction? What would be another solvent that you'd want to throw in there if you're doing two solvents for a dual extraction? You could do glycerin, absolutely. Yeah. So you could throw glycerin in there, and that brings up our third solvent. Use glycerin. So glycerin, how is glycerin as a solvent for lemongrass?
Oh,
Be the same as water, right?
Be the same as water, which means it's fine. It's going to be perfectly decent to make.
If you add vinegar to your alcohol.
You could add vinegar to your alcohol also, and that would really increase it. So that would be the best thing, is acidifying your alcohol. Yep, absolutely. So we could drop the pH, would be a way to modify that. So throw some apple cider vinegar in there. Yes, or some citric acid.
Lemongrass have enough acidity in it to bring out most of those short period of time, or is it still longer?
It still is a longer period of time. Don't know if you heard that online. Renee was asking if the acidity in the tea was enough to enhance the extraction of the minerals. It is enough to enhance the extraction of the minerals because we are getting a drop in pH, because even though it isn't really acidic, right? If we compare this to, say, hibiscus, right? There's a huge difference in the acidity of lemongrass to hibiscus. But it definitely is acidic. And so, yes, we will get that extraction. It will speed up extraction of the silica. So this is one of those plants that we can use where as the organic acids in the plants are extracted into the water, the pH of the water drops down, and that enhances the extraction of the minerals, which is a really fun thing to do if you're looking for a particularly a mineral-rich extraction in water. Is drop that pH and just have that cycle going. Yeah. So let's see. How about honey? What about honey as a solvent here? Honey would be exceptional. Honey is like it's like water extract, but it does have a little bit of increased solubility. Lisa Ganora, in a class that I took with her once said that she considered the solvent capacity of honey to be about the same as about a 35% alcohol solution, right? So having a little bit of that, it's not completely the water-soluble compounds. It'll extract some of those less soluble stuff, but it is still mostly water-soluble. So it's nice for kind of encouraging those out. Honey is acidic, and so as an acidic compound, we're going to get more of that silica out of there, right? We're going to get those aromatics. We're going to get the phenolic compounds. So the honey extract would be really, really great. So we have water and alcohol and glycerin and honey here as solvents today. So we can play with making an extract of lemongrass. So as we have looked at this is kind of what you want to do if you're looking at a plant, right? You have an abundance of a plant and you're thinking, okay, I want to make medicine out of this. How do I make medicine? This is going to be one of the first questions you ask. What is its primary, what are the best solvents to use for this, right? With lemongrass, all of them are fine. Some modifications if we're making just a tincture. The tincture would be extracting a lot of those aromatics. So if you're wanting that lemongrass for the antispasmodic and uplifting and calming effects, then that alcohol extract of fresh lemongrass would be really, really nice. And you would even be extracting a lot of those lower molecular weight, tiny, delicate aromatic compounds that are lost in the drying process or in the heating process, right? Those things that as we crushed it this morning we were smelling, right? Those things are going to be caught and trapped in a high alcohol tincture. So depends on what you're looking for. Depends on the what you want in your finished product. Yeah.
Question about if you wanted to, I use vinegar in cleaning a lot, white vinegar.
Yes.
Can you add fresh lemongrass to that? Will it extract will it smell
Yes.
vinegar?
Yes. What I do is, the question was about white vinegar, putting lemongrass in white vinegar. I often do that because I often have too much lemongrass. And I'm always using white vinegar, same thing. So you can just take your leftovers. Oftentimes we're not using like these outer portion. Any of the aromatic plants that I grow, anything that's kind of left over that is still aromatic. So my citrus peels, clippings of like lavender and rosemary and thyme, lemongrass, any aromatics. So I just throw them into, I have a big 2-gallon bucket of white vinegar, and I just shove things in the top, just kind of haphazardly, whatever is around an aromatic I'll throw in there. But lemongrass works very, very well in that. One of the things that I like about lemongrass in there, better than using something like lavender or rosemary, the lavender and rosemary, those darker pigmented plants will make the white vinegar darker. And so if you're like spraying it in your bathroom for, in your shower, then you're going to be spraying kind of it's already kind of brownish from the apple cider vinegar, if you make it with apple cider vinegar, it's dark brown. If you make it with white vinegar and lemongrass, it's going to be pretty clear and pretty easy to use as a cleaning solution. But if you use those darker colored plants, then your white vinegar will become darker colored, and it doesn't look as cute. And it can, in some instances, if you're just looking to do kind of a quick spray, it'll discolor the surface, and then you have to rinse, and you're like, well, why am I using this anyway? But it is good at inhibiting fungal growth, inhibiting mold. So that's why generally very often I use it as an in the shower kind of spray, which is why I'm kind of talking about it in that respect. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to grab a bunch of lemongrass, and you're going to bash it up. And then you're going to slice it up. What we want to do is break up those cell walls as much as possible to enhance extraction. Choose a solvent. And then we're going to do folk methods. So we've talked a lot about the use of the clinical method, the 1-to-5 ratio of weight to volume in proper extraction of herbs. This is lemongrass. We don't need to do that. So what you're going to do is just shove the jars as full as you can of lemongrass. Just get as much plant material as you can in there, and then pour your solvent in, and you're going to be okay with that. If you want to do a water bath to enhance extraction, we've talked about that also the last couple of classes. You can absolutely do a water bath to speed that up, or you can just leave it where it is. We do want to be mindful of the fact that we are using a fresh plant, and so what is one of the concerns when we're using fresh plant in our extracts?
The water.
Hmm?
How much water it has in it.
How much water it has in it, that's right, yes. So we're diluting our solvent. Sometimes that's beneficial, sometimes that's deliberate and we want to do that, sometimes that's going to be problematic. And it has a lot to do with how juicy your plant material is, right? There's a difference between this and a lemon, which has a lot more juiciness in it. This class, it is a master class just for you folks, because you're masters. What about a pure vinegar extract of lemongrass? So a pure vinegar extract of lemongrass, what would that be like?
Apple cider vinegar?
Apple cider vinegar, yeah, as an apple cider vinegar extract, yeah. It would be definitely tart. With that low pH, we'd be really extracting that silica, right? Those phenolics would come out. A pure vinegar extract would be really, really good as a vinegar and general anti-inflammatory extract. Would also be good for the skin, right? Because lemongrass is very cooling to the skin, so you could use that if you were going to be using, if you were wanting to make a skin toner. Lemongrass would be great for that. And lemongrass is good for oily skin, skin that is that produces a lot of oil, hair that produces a lot of oil. We can use lemongrass to kind of quiet down hyperactive oil glands. So yes, so you could use it internally and also topically would be great. You could also make an oxymel instead of, so you could do and yes, abajita, oh, I see too much water, yes. Mineral rich, lots of silica. Abajita, you got it down. You could also put in some honey in there and make an oxymel, right? So, and then you'd have that sweet sour thing going on with that lovely flavor specifically of lemongrass. That would be really, really good. I think everyone's thinking oxymel now over on this side. So yeah, absolutely you could, yeah. Is glycerin a good choice, or is it better to use ethanol? So glycerin would be fine. Glycerin would be great. We want to think about glycerin as being as effective as water, basically. And then you can increase that. How do you increase the solvent capacity of glycerin?
Vinegar?
No. I mean, you could do that. It was a good guess because of the silica. No, by heating it. hot glycerin has a much stronger solubility than room temperature glycerin. So doing that sealed simmer extract would be really good. And that would be, I think, Marcos, better than the ethanol because of the limiting factor of ethanol on the presence of minerals, because minerals just really don't like the alcohol. So this is the limiting factor with the ethanol, right? You could mix ethanol and glycerin together. Yeah, right? So choose a solvent and then go to town. Some plants, it's as easy as that. We don't have to do any math, and we don't have to do any measurements, and we don't have to do anything. We can just chop them up, bash them up and chop them up and shove them in a jar and cover them with something, let them sit for X amount of time, and then you'll have a really, really lovely, nutrient rich depending on which solvent you used, aromatic depending on which solvent you used, phenolic rich pretty much across the board, delightful pretty much across the board medicine. Yeah? Alrighty. So you've got trays there that you can use as your work base, or you can just go on the table, that's fine. Bashing equipment. I brought if you're really serious about your bashing. Now, one of the things when you are making medicine with your lemongrass that I do want to point out is when you're cleaning at the very beginning, you want to go in and check to make sure. This one is pretty good. Look, there's a little baby. See the little baby growing right, starting right there? You can have other friends that have climbed in the inside. Oh, here's another little baby. Look right there. See, this is how the plant loves to grow. It just wants to make more and more and more plants. And that is sort of, in fact, you can really, really see how it grows out of the crown. And you can see the nodes of the plant, right, where it's kind of had a growth spurt. And then up here, there's another, and there'll be another little node up there. And that's where a lot of those roots will start coming out. So it's really, really good if you see those. But yeah, there's a little baby there. I was going to say, oh, yeah, you just want to go in and check to see that there's no insects or slugs or anything taking advantage of the fact that they've got a little protected area right there to grow in. But once you have that cleaned and rinsed, we have a bucket of water right here for you to rinse if you need to. It's always a good idea to do one last one after you're done. Then you can cut your material. Now, here's a couple of options for you. Is you can, so you have your cleaned up lemongrass here. What you can do if you want is you can cut off, like from the crown here, maybe 3 inches, right? And if you do that, then we can use this for medicine making, and you can plant this, right? And this will grow very, very readily. Again, if you're not interested in planting, here again you can see those concentric circles that show there's no base here. This would not be something that you could propagate because the propagation is up here, right? So that's how you would check that. So you're going to cut that off, and then we want to use the juicy, lower, lighter colored plant material. So up until you start to see what are called joints. The joints are these like knees, right? This is a joint right here. Once it starts to joint, generally the essential oil content decreases, although the silica is still there. In fact, there's a higher concentration of silica here because of the reduced amount of water and aromatics and everything. It's just concentrated here. So if you're looking at it primarily for silica, you could certainly use the whole of the plant material, and you can feel that silica in there. If you run your fingers up and down the edge there, you can feel the silica along the edge. It'll cut you because it's like glass, because it's glass. But that shows, that's the chemistry that you may be looking for. So you can use that whole one if you don't want to maximize the flavor and the aromatics. If you want to maximize the flavor and aromatics, you're going to want to use the lower juicy part. All right? So then you're going to bash it if it's... bash it up if you need to, if it's dense. You want to... There you go. If you use a hammer, you want to have a... Con, excuse me, I'm trying to teach a class over here. You're kind of loud. You're fine. Go bash away. Hold on. Hold, please.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Nice blend.
Nice. All right. So yeah, bashing away. Let's see. It is so fun to bash things. Yeah. So I've got solvents over here. I've got your vinegar.
Sorry. Sorry.
You're fine.
Please stop bashing.
Yeah, Con, tell her. So yeah, go to town on the solvents here. Oh, I've got in the box over there, we've got little jars that you can use to fill those up. Sounds like little kids beating on pots and pans. Yes, Passionate Herbs, you totally have 3 little kids beating on pots and pans over here. Yes, but they're fun. You know, it's delightful to watch kids beating on pots and pans, right? It really is a joyous thing, so I don't begrudge them. If you are, oh, cute dog. If you are going to use your hammer, you do want to cover the plant material, of course, with something so you're not getting funky hammer stuff in your plant stuff. Let's see, what else can I share with you about lemongrass? Do you have any questions about lemongrass or about anything else as we're hanging here? They're over there chopping up as they're making their medicines. But I hang out with you for just a few moments while they are finishing up. There's a really, really lovely kind of specimen of, this is often how you buy the lemongrass in the store, right? So this would be just a really, really good quality here. Really fresh and lovely. You can see the outer tissue is really firm. It's just fresh and juicy. By the way, this is one of the things we kind of talk about in class when we're talking about energetics. You can tell that this is freshly harvested. It's fresh and juicy and beautiful, right? It's plump and resilient, and you can just tell that this was a healthy and happy plant, that this is going to be make really good medicine or food. This is just really great. If you saw this part of it on there, you'd go, it's kind of doesn't look quite so good, right? That looks a little bit funky, right? You can do the same thing with humans and with other beings, right? So when we're talking about tissue states, when we're talking about assessment of whether tissues are hot or cold or damp or dry or hypertonic or too lax, call on, think of a veggie, think of a plant material. You already know how to assess tissues for vitality and quality and health, right? So as we were talking about this weekend, you know more than you think you do. It's just we tend to we compartmentalize what we think we know, and but you know what healthy, juicy tissues look like. So look at your own tissues, look at other tissues, and trust your assessment of the situation. But also acknowledge that we have brains that are pattern seeking and we tend to make things up. So you also want to kind of be aware that brains are not the most reliable machines for getting information out of. So just as long as anything your brain tells you, you're also kind of meeting with some skepticism, right? It's a complex thing being a human and assessing information, but you can do it. Do you know cedron? It's a lemon verbena. Reminds me of lemongrass in taste. We have, is it the aloesia lemon verbena, the tree? We have one growing right over here, and it is delightful. I love working with the lemon verbena. Absolutely, it has different chemistry, significantly different chemistry, and you know this already. What would be one of the primary differences in chemistry between lemon verbena and lemongrass? And I'm going to. I'm not looking at Con. I'm not looking at anyone. I was very deliberately and mindfully not looking at anyone. And hold on, because I'm going to go. There's a bunch of deer in the headlights here. It's like, oh no. Hold on, I'm going to go get some lemon verbena. And I'm going to ask you again.
I don't know a lot about the
Well, Julie just talked about, we just did blue verbena. When? Oh, I'm mixing them up. See, I don't know anything. Lemon?
If I'm thinking, I'm almost going to say it has presence.
It's those small, tiny leaves, right? Just. Okay, I have that in the garden.
Okay.
Yes.
Is this the one that you're thinking of, Abahita?
No, that's nice.
Yeah, but that's the scientific name. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I know. It's just so good. Hold on. Okay. So, yes, yeah, Abahita, yeah. I know. Isn't it just the best smelling plant? If folks, if you're watching and you're local, this is the small tree that grows right at the very entrance, the side entrance to the Apothecary. So you can go and just give it a little bit of a smell. Right next to the lemongrass, by the way. So, this is a tree. It's the best. Essential oil content significantly higher.
Yeah.
Right? Significantly higher. So you're going to get even more of that uplifting quality, right? So the uplifting qualities, the happy-making, euphoric qualities, especially a fresh lemon verbena, are through the roof. It's so good. That flowers are edible. They're just so tiny, right? But the leaves are absolutely edible. Yes. Yeah, they make lovely tea. This is a tree, and this is a grass.
And so
There are two varieties, slightly different in smell, taste, but look the same. Tamkagai soup with lemongrass is amazing. It's so amazing. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the difference in the chemistry. So the aromatics are a little bit different because of the taste, but I'm looking at the structural compounds.
Oh, well, one has a lot of silica.
One has a lot of silica.
When you said structure, I was like, oh, you gave it away.
Yeah, I totally gave it away,
I was
but
like,
that's
what
okay.
difference in what way?
I know. It was like, no, it's so much easier. See, brains lie to you. Your brain was telling you it was really, really hard. You can trust me.
It's just
You can trust me. I would not throw you in there. But yes, so the flavor is the same, and we can sometimes think that if the flavor is the same, and they are very similar flavors, this is certainly much stronger. It's much more pungent, but you would totally associate these. The uplifting qualities, the digestive, soothing qualities that Abahita was talking about are going to be the same. The big difference is the phenolic compounds and the silica in here. So if you're using it primarily as an anti-inflammatory, as a structural compound, the lemongrass is going to be the one that you're going to want to use. If you're using it primarily for that euphoric, uplifting quality, and also for the carminative, antispasmodic gut qualities, the lemon verbena would actually be stronger because of those aromatics. And if you're making tom kha gai soup, then you'd definitely want the lemongrass. Yes. Which, by the way, passionate herbs, do you know the fire cider book? Because you brought that up. you know, the fire cider book that proceeds go to pay the legal fees for the Fire Cider 5. And in here, one of my favorite recipes in here that I have not made, but I really, really, really want to make is from a lovely friend. Where is it?
We're huffing
They're huffing the lemon verbena, yes. And you're doing proper smelling like I've taught you.
That was my throat. I was like, oh,
I feel so happy. They're doing good smelling.
that's why I'm doing this.
That's why you're doing that. I'm surprised you're not sitting down for it though.
What is,
I've shown you how to properly smell
what
things
does
before.
that feel when you run your
What does that feel?
Because it, you know, it feels like
rough.
the silica. when
It's,
like
yeah,
rough, like
it's
it
kind
has
of,
some-
yes, yeah.
If it's
I
not
don't know.
silica, then what is it?
I mean, it's
Just
structural stuff. It's cellulose.
okay.
Yeah,
'Cause it has
it's
that
just
like-
fiber. Yeah, but it's the venation. It's the veins of the leaf is what you're running across there. Right. Anyway, so Mason Hutchinson has a Tom Kha Fire cider
Ooh,
Right?
Oh, that's so
with lemongrass and galangal and what he doesn't put, but I want to totally put in there, is coconut milk. Because how can you have Tom Kha lemongrass without coconut, fire cider without coconut milk? But you'd have to be careful because
I was
I don't
gonna
know.
say it might go bad.
It might go bad.
Yeah.
It might go off
Real
weird,
bad.
like curdle or something,
Yeah,
right?
that would be-
Like, yeah, that would be bad.
Maybe
Maybe adding
there's
it
a
when you're
reason he
using it.
doesn't have it in there.
Maybe it just has to be a two-part thing. So you make a little coconut milk syrup,
Ruin it.
and then you have your
Got it.
coconut milk infused honey, and then you have the
I can't take
vinegar. Yeah,
That'd
I don't
be
know.
super
We'll figure that out. Details. We'll have to we may have to do a couple of different batches to finalize it.
Workshop.
'Cause work.
Yes, workshop.
Workshop.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. You have that book. Yeah. Make that one and let me know how it is.
You what?
Yes to the coconut
I
milk.
know, I'm
Absolutely.
so
Okay.
obsessed with this right
Alrighty, so lemongrass. Go get some from the farmer's market or the produce section. Grow it if you can. Don't use coconut milk or just make a very small batch. It will be horrible. Marco says it will be horrible. Okay, I really trust you, Marco. So, but I have to. You understand? I
Yeah.
just have to. But yeah, I'm thinking.
Just go get some.
I'm thinking. Other class subject suggestion: taking
I
a
trust my brain here. It says yes.
4 degrees of herbs. Oh, when giving this or that herb, yes, yeah, 4 degrees of herbs. Yeah, that would be fun. Fire cider with coconut is a very bad idea. You know, you're saying that. My brain is saying that. I still got to do it, Marcos. You understand. I got to do it. All right. I will see you all next week. And we may come back and hang our heads in shame because we tried fire cider with coconut milk, and Marcos will get to do the "I told you so" dance, and that will be fun in and of itself. Thanks for showing up, folks. I will see you next week. Okay, bye-bye.